Hello everyone, and thank you for joining me for the IoT testing, overcoming the challenges. I would like to start with my story about how I came up with the idea for this presentation for the blog I wrote about IoT. I'm a huge geek and fan of technology. And a few weeks before, after my wife gave birth to our first boy, she told me that she want me to buy a camera, a Wi-Fi camera, so we can install it in the room and in the living room and in the kitchen and everywhere, and we can see the boy and his nanny everywhere they go, or if we are in the living room and he's playing in his room, or especially at night when he's asleep. She wants, and I also supported this, that this is very important to have a camera in his room and in his playroom. So as a huge geek and fan, I Google for the best camera there is in the market. And after a few days of market research, I found the best value for money camera with all the technology, the latest and greatest, and with the night vision and the quality, HD quality, and all of that. And I ordered 4 cameras, and I was very excited. Okay, and I was very excited to order this camera. And since I am a huge geek fan, I told my wife that I'm going to spend the whole weekend installing it and drilling it and then connect it to the Wi-Fi, and then downloading the application that came with this camera. And I was super excited when I got the call from the delivery boy telling me that I have a package. And I ran to the delivery boy and took the package, and it was Friday morning, and I was super excited about the great weekend that I'm going to have. And I opened the package and I saw the 4 cameras. I opened the first one. I told to myself, okay, before I'm doing all the drilling and wiring and the electricity and all of that, let's see that everything is working. And I turned on the first camera, and some lady in Chinese, I think it is, or Japanese, is screaming about me. And I'm familiar with Hebrew, I'm familiar with English, I'm familiar with Yiddish, but I'm not familiar with Chinese and Japanese. And I was saying to myself, okay, whoops, that kind of things happen. So I put the plug out and put it again. And again, she was screaming about me, and I have no idea what is the problem. So I opened the second package with the second camera. Again, same thing, plugged it. I was very excited. I told to myself, okay, the first camera must be something wrong. I will ship it again. They will refund me or will send me a new camera. And same thing, this lady is screaming about me, and I have no idea what she's saying. So I opened the third one and the third one, and they are all same thing. She was screaming about me, and I have no idea why. So I was really upset because all the 4 cameras are not working, and I told to myself, okay, let's Google it. So in a very simple Google, I typed the camera and the name and the version that I have, and I Google it, and I saw that this problem happens a lot. And and I started to dig in and start to see where is the problem and how can I fix it. I shockingly understand that inside the camera there is a headless Ubuntu, a light Ubuntu, and with a simple hack that took me 7 minutes, and because I was shocked that in 7 minutes I can hack this camera, and by a simple basic command lines, I took the permission of the root and was able to hack to the system and change and add another parameter to where I am. And this is what the lady was screaming about me, because this camera, the seller, was from China, and he was selling cameras that was for the China market. And it was my mistake that I brought it in the China version instead of the Europe version. But in 7 minutes, I gave to myself a root permission. I add another parameter, which means that each time I plugged in the camera, it searched for where I am, and it pointed to this parameter that I am in China. And I changed the language of the lady to English. And once I did it, again, in 7 minutes, I was able to fix all the cameras and they are working. And it was nice, and I plugged it and everyone is happy and all of that. But at the end of the day, I thought to myself, how awful user experience someone who just brought this camera would have, since this lady talks in Chinese, the menu is in Chinese, you have two buttons, the power off and the power on, and that's it. And you can't do anything. You can't plug it to your laptop because there is nothing you can do. It's in Ubuntu and you are blocked. And if you are not a bit technical, you wouldn't notice that there is an operating system on the camera. And from the other hand, I thought, oh, so cool, there is a light Ubuntu, and this is so cool, and I can do many things about it. But on the other hand, um, it's very easy for someone to hack my camera, to see my house, to see if there is a thief that also know a bit about computers, about networking. He can know when and where I'm not at home, so he can break into my house and steal my things, my stuff. And I thought to myself, wow, I need to write about it. So this is how I start this presentation. This is why I wrote the blog. So my name is Israel Rogoza, and as you can see, I'm Adi's husband and Omri's father, and I'm a product manager in Incredibuild. And I would like to start with a few challenges that, from my experience with a huge project regarding the IoT, and also from my big interest in gig, in technology, in the IoT world. I've noticed a few of the challenges. Also, I was part of a very large team that testing tools to test IoT. So I took all this combination and all my talks and my sessions with customer, and I think the most challenging thing about testing IoT is that the world is moving much faster every day, every month, every year. New technology is coming, new manufacture, new software, and IoT is a bit different than testing other things because the impact of IoT on our life is huge. Everywhere there is IoT, and you can see that as the days goes by, IoT is basically everywhere, in our cars, in our house, in our hospital, in our bus, in our airplanes, in our electricity, everywhere. So you can't stop testing. You have to use the testing methodology that we are all aware that we are all doing in our normal days, in our day-to-day job, but you have to do a bit shifting, and you have to put the focus on the usual QA things, but with an aspect of testing the IoT. And I think that you should resume your testing. You shouldn't stop your testing. You shouldn't be panic because of the IoT. But you have to focus on the aspect of you need to deliver it fast. You need to deliver this with highly security. And on top of this, top-notch user behavior. Because on every camera, and every IoT camera that you have 10 more manufacturers that are doing pretty much the same thing. So if you want users, if you want your mother buying this camera, you have to be on top of them. So one of the things that you should do regarding the testing IoT is do the shift. And by doing do the shift, you have the shift right and the shift left, the methodologies. And here I'm talking about the shift left. And the shift left means that as soon as you are starting to test performance and functional as part of your DevOps, the sooner you will find problems. But one of the major aspect and one of the major problems in agile methodology is the DevOps bottleneck. It means that you can have the perfect automation and you can have the perfect agile cycle, and you can act and do the agile by the book, and you have the Scrum and the product owner and all the roles. But if a nightly build, for example, is taking 8 hours, if after each commit you want to test, you want to make the focus larger, you want to find the issues much more faster. So you want, for example, after each commit, or after each in each commit or in each push, you want to run several tests. But if those tests takes 2 hours, your developers, your QA automation guys will stop doing it. And I saw customers that because of this delay, because of those problems, are doing very slow DevOps cycle. And sometimes I talked with a few of the release automation and the release managers, and they are telling me, listen, because this is so slow, we are doing 1 build per day, and that's it. It means that they are finding the defects and all the regressions only at the day after, because at night they are running the build, and over morning the build manager and the QA manager open the reports and they see where it fails and which test didn't succeed. So you will have to use tools to make it more faster. And there are a lot of great tools that makes your DevOps and automation and compiling much faster. And you have great tools for testing, for example, in the cloud, which means that you don't have to provision before hardware to test. If you are running performance or if you are running functional tests, then during the test, you are spinning a machine dedicated for the test, and you don't have to manage the entire cycle. And the bottom line is that you have to as much as you will make the DevOps cycle faster, also the code quality will be much higher. And by doing so, you will not have to get into integration hell. And integration hell means that at the end of the release, you are starting to accelerate your DevOps cycle. And by doing so, you're starting to find many defects and many bugs. And what eventually cause that you will release the new version with minor or medium defects. You will release with not the best user behavior or experience. You will release it with defects, or you will postpone the release since you are just about to release at the deadline, and you have many issues, and the definition of done cannot be signed. Then bottom line, you have to make your DevOps move much faster. And by doing so, you have applications that are speeding up, are accelerating builds and compilation. And on the other hand, you have tools for making your tests much more easier to maintain. And I can say that you should try those tools. I have to say that in the past, I was part of HP Software, which have StormRunner Load, but for performance testing. But there is also Suasta and BlazeMeter, which offer great performance testing in the cloud. You also have SOSLab for functional testing, and StormRunner Functional from Micro Focus, which are great tools for accelerating your functional testing. And I will briefly go that today I'm working in Incredibuild, which also have a solution for accelerating your DevOps and release automation, and we also have a trial. You should try all those tools, and there are many more tools that will help you to get over and not to bump into the integration hell. Also, test more. Test more means that you should test your application, your device, much more than you usually do, and by doing so, you will have a great benefit. But in order to test more, you will have you will need to use and build more test automation. You will have to invest more time in building good tests. You will have to cooperate and convince your developers. Sometimes developers don't like to write tests, and they are saying this is the QA position, and I'm not familiar with the product, with the whole scenario. I'm just familiar with my part, with my section in this in the code, and I don't think that you should start war between the QA and the developers. You all have the same target. You will have to motivate them by cooperate, which means, for example, sitting and explaining them the whole scenario. I saw cases that they split the job between the QA and the developers, which means that the QA wrote the full scenario and the developer wrote the test, making them understand that the better they will write the automation, the better the QA have quality. then it will make their life also much easier. So don't start a war. And IoT, since you have to go fast to market, then it's really sometimes getting into the a peak that on the business side, they want to release, and on the R&D, on the guys that develop, there are issues that prevent, and you have bottlenecks. But test more on the long run will make the product be much more quality. The quality will be much higher. So especially in IoT, test more. Another aspect that I feel from my experience is make it predictable. I bumped into one of the largest manufacturer that manufacture a lot of IoT, and I told them, guys, how do you test all your things? Because let's take Tesla, for example, or other self-driving car. You know, you can't change something regarding the car decisions and take your car, take the car and start driving it in the road. You have great tools, and eventually I understand how they are testing this for network virtualization, for metrics virtualization, for service virtualization, and there are great tools to simulate this. And this guy, which part of his job is related to the self-driving car, told me that they have days over days of recording by using service virtualization. They took one-time effort recording very long road, very long trip that they did for the weekend, and they each time they are testing the self-driving for the first time, they are doing this kind of trip for virtualization, and they testing this in this kind of trip, and over the time they recorded a lot of those trips, and eventually each time they are doing some testing which is in a very late stage, which means that the software is stable. They are recording their trip, so they will have more data to test. And also, for example, he was telling me that he is using network virtualization because some of the self-driving car is using network, but what happens in a tunnel? What happens in the middle of the desert when the car can't connect to the server? So they have to test all of those scenarios by using these virtualization tools. So there are a lot of freeware virtualization tools for doing so. Google has some of the network virtualization, and CA and Micro Focus have great service virtualization. So make it predictable. Test this as you are in your customer room. So I would expect, if we are going back to my story, that someone from the QA of this camera will plug it in and make sure that no one in 7 minutes can grant himself a root privileges. So this is the basic, which leads me to security, of course. And a few weeks ago, I read that car manufacturer Audi was forced to delay one of the release of the smart cars, since they had they have issues with the IoT in the car. And we see IoT more and more embedded into the cars, and now it's a critical part of the of most of the cars. The IoT today in cars, and I'm not talking about the self-driving, IoT today in cars is reporting back about technical issues, about accidents, about information regarding the car, and a lot of metrics that can be controlled. Lately, I saw a new insurance company telling that if you will install their IoT device inside your car, and they can track the speed, they will give you a discount in your insurance. All of these are great, but I'm not sure that everyone understands the impact they have on this car, because sometimes this integration means that they connect their device to the car main computer, for example, and they can, even if they are not doing anything harm, they can take a lot of data. Imagine that you you connect your IoT device, any IoT device. It doesn't have to be related to insurance, and someone is selling this data. And next time your car gets stolen, the insurance company will say, "Hey, you parked in a very dangerous area, and this can make you a lot of trouble." Then you will have to think about security in a very aspect manner. Also, in a lot of the IoT, you will have an operating system inside it to handle all these kind of things. So you will have to test it like it's a computer, like it's a normal device. You will have to make sure that the permission is okay. You will have to make sure that all the files that are important is in the right permission to change, to view. So you can't do a simple sudo to change the permission. So think security means that think outside the box. Think that this is also a simple device like a camera. Test the camera, test the night vision, test that it record, test the memory card and all of that. But on the other hand, on the other aspect, this is a computer. So test it like in a computer. And there are two examples that I saw and I thought that should worth mentioning. Um, the smart refrigerator from Samsung, which is very cool. You know, you have the screen and you can see the weather and you can see the latest news. And it also one of the features is that they can the refrigerator knows if something is out of stock, if it's ran out, or if the date has expired from your milk. It can order it automatically from the supermarket, and all of these are great. God knows how many times I forgot to buy milk, and then eventually I read that someone was managed to hack these refrigerators, and it was not that nice that he stole the credit card number or he changed the address. I saw in one of the articles that the hacker was so smart then that he changed the address. That's it. He ordered from the supermarket and everything was looking okay. He just changed the address to his address, and he was making a huge list from the supermarket to some random house. He was waiting outside the house for the guy from the supermarket, took all the things and ran away. And on the other hand, a dishwasher, there is a smart dishwasher that you can that you have an application and you can start the dishwasher, you can stop the dishwasher, you can check the what is the status of the dishwasher and all of that. And just imagine that in the middle of the night the dishwasher start working, or someone is changing the soap quantity in each wash, and you find yourself drowned with soap or or any other things that you can do once you hack to this dishwasher, because this dishwasher must be connected to your internet, your house internet. Then they are all seems like, you know, this is a dishwasher and this is a refrigerator, so no harm, but basic examples about day-to-day things that we use each day and how in a second they can be very, very dangerous. And this is a great quote. I wrote, I read a few days ago, and I thought to myself, "Wow, I have to add it to my presentation." More than 70% of the IoT devices are currently vulnerable to security threats. 70%. That is a lot, and the security must be extremely high. And I think the last thing, but it's last but not least, is the user experience, the user behavior. And as I like to say, think about your mother. And I was I took part in a few user experience seminars, and the speaker, which was really funny, showed this picture, and I said, "Oh, this is great. There are so many buttons, and the amount of time I explained to my mother why she can't see TV, and I would try to find out which button she pressed, and this is so frustrated." And this is again in same thing in the camera, because I plug the camera and I have no control about the camera. I didn't have the option to change anything. No basic installation, no information, no buttons, no anything. So user experience is important anywhere, in software and in hardware, but since IoT is everywhere, and think how easy it to use Alexa. Think how easy it to use the refrigerator you just saw. You just telling him, okay, no more milk, please add it to the list for the supermarket. So since the IoT is everywhere, you have to test your personas. And if the IoT can, for example, this camera, my mother can order it, and 100% she will throw it to the trash. She will try to plug it once, and even if it's in English, and she can't understand the next phase, because I can say that I'm a very technical guy, but even after I changed the camera to English, it took me 1 hour at least to connect the camera to the application. You have to scan the QR, and then you will have to add the details, and I understand the security, why they did it and all of that, but you can do security with a great user experience. See how much it easy, for example, is to reset your password in Google or in Facebook. It's really easy. They are saying, okay, we're sending the code to the phone number, and you will have to put it inside and all of that, and there is great mechanism. I'm at least 1 hour I'm trying to understand what is the problem with why I can't see the camera inside the application. So think about your mother. Is that simple enough? And if this device is not for non-technical guys, if this is for major technical guys, think like they are opening the box for the first time, what they will see, what they will feel, which button they will press. Is this button is in the right location? Is this button doing the right things? Always think in IoT, you should have more focus about it. This is a quote that I really like from Abraham Maslow. And if the only tool you have is a hammer, you tend to see every problem as a nail. So if you are testing IoT, it's just a camera that you connect to the internet, then you will miss a lot of defects. You will miss a lot of bugs. You will miss a lot of bad user experience. Then you need to test it like it's a camera, and you need to test it like it's a computer, because there is an operation system, and you need to think about how to test it for the best user experience to cover camera and operating system. So you need to understand that IoT, you have to put a lot of hats to test. So I really want to thank you for your time, and I appreciate that you joined us for this session. And I love to finish my presentation with a summary of what I just spoke here in my session. You will have the 5 ways to make IoT testing work for you. You have to do the shift, accelerate your DevOps, and use new tools that rely on cloud resources. Test more, share your testing scope with your developers, share the testing scope with your DevOps guys, understand how you can make it more efficient, make it predictable, use virtualization tools, security, think how your hacker scenario will have, think what your IoT device, which permission you give, which permission he can give to which other device you can hack, you can get, which information you share with who, and of course, user experience. Think about your mother. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.